Carrie, your sister, is getting this big award today, getting her star on the Walk of Fame. What would Carrie think of all of this that's going on right now?
Well, it's kind of funny because I kept thinking earlier over the last few years, why didn't Carrie have a star even at this point, if you think about it? Grauman's was the only person to kind of honor her with a plaque with my mother and her a few years ago, and I went to that ceremony. But I look, I think Carrie would be honored and would appreciate it deeply because she would never say it, but it was a little weird that she didn't already have it, but she wasn't going to nominate herself because who in the world would do that who has any class at all? So I think it's certainly well deserved, beyond well deserved. Of all of the people you can think of, I think she's one of the most inspirational people, celebrities, that has helped so many people through her own sharing of her problems. She outed mental health, she outs drug addiction. I mean, it's just pretty remarkable. And in the middle of all that, she has this remarkable career of writing and acting. And man, what can you say? She was remarkable.
Now, given everything that's kind of happened in the last 24 to 48 hours, what do you think Carrie would think of everything that's kind of transpired?
Well, I went to every event with Carrie since we were little children, like even my mother's handprints, footprints, and the Walk of Fame, and every premiere. I went to every premiere with Carrie as her plus one. So it's the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So what would Carrie do? I would have been invited, no question. Not invited. I would have been her plus one. You know what? I'm still her plus one. I'll always be her plus one.
Now, I got your statement, which you and I spoke about, so thank you. But just tell me, when you saw Billie's statement come out, what was your reaction to all of that?
Well, I was a little surprised that she didn't have a good reason. That's a completely ridiculous reason if you think about it. That a book was written that I have to ask permission from her to write my life story with my sister and mother. Carrie wrote 7 books, far more exploitive than anything I ever wrote. My mother wrote 3 books. Nobody asked Billie's permission to write these books. I don't really think it's a valid point. I'll love her anyway. She is who she is by birth to me. And, hopefully she'll understand someday that it's not all about her.
Well, I mean, so just so we have some context and everything too, when was the last time you and Billie had actually spoken to each other?
Pre-pandemic, it's years. She cut us off, went black a long time ago. Not just me, a lot of people. I think basically and in her statement makes it pretty clear she's rejecting this side of the family and our philosophies, our way of life, the way we express ourselves, the way we communicate is unacceptable to her, and that's her privilege.
And, again, you've talked a little bit about this too, but what do you have to say about her claims that you and your sisters monetized Carrie's passing?
The idea that we've monetized is insane. I did one news story 2020 after their deaths to clarify the fact that my mother did not die of a broken heart, and that was it. I've never received anything regarding my sister's death. I wrote a book about my life from the beginning of time to the end of time. It was a book about life, not about death. So this concept, it's small change. I mean, it's a ridiculous claim. Nobody's made money on Carrie's death. No one was more injured by Carrie's death than myself, other than Billie. But that's not entirely true. The world grieved. And that is partly why I wrote the book. And I've had tens of thousands of people say how important the book was to them and their process of getting through the loss of Carrie.
Now, obviously, today is a big day. What do you hope, on a happier note, what do you hope the legacy that Carrie left behind is? What do you hope that legacy is for the fans?
I think Carrie's legacy is that she and Princess Leia are one. The character exuded her embracing of life. It exuded her power over adversity, the ability to never say no, never say can't, to get in Darth Vader's face. You're Darth Vader, and tell him he recognizes foul stench anywhere. I mean, she was a powerful woman who inspired all people And I think that legacy is critical, and I think her part in the world is well written, well documented, and the effect that she's had on people is fantastic. I mean, she's such an inspiration.
Now, I know that the Walk of Fame ceremony is going to be streaming live. Do you plan on watching it at all?
Sure.
Watching the whole event?
Sure, of course. I mean, I wish I could be there in person. I will watch it. Uh, I'll watch it with Carrie.
And again, you're her brother. You grew up with her. Talk a little bit about life growing up with Carrie.
Well, Carrie, our life, I mean, Carrie, considered our life crazy. Like she used to say, we grew up in this fishbowl. Our family wore our underwear on the outside of our clothes. I mean, those are comments from Carrie. I mean, and there's a lot of truth to that. It was insanity growing up because of the fame of our mother and father, and our mother was a superstar at the time and did an amazing job of balancing that career and still being a regular mom. So, I mean, the truth, we had to really leave it to Beaver life at home in some ways, even though the mother was not June Cleaver, but Debbie Reynolds, or was it Murray Frances Reynolds? I mean, there was two sides to my mom, and even sometimes when I would watch her on stage, I would be like, "Wow, that's my mom," or is that Debbie Reynolds? I mean, there's a little confusion in this life, and I think Carrie struggled with being in the shadow of my mother when she chose to go into show business. But Carrie and I both lived a very privileged, amazing life, and it is also what made us who we are. Being raised by my mother the way we were, you got to say my mother made Princess long before Princess Leia. There was Princess Carrie before Princess Leia. And my mother groomed that person. When Carrie said she wanted to go show business, my mother groomed her. My mother spent enormous time with her. And a lot of who Carrie is, a lot, not all, is I see my mother and my mother's strength in her. But then there's nothing like Carrie. I mean, I don't know. I mean, other than Winston Churchill, no one has more quotes than Carrie.
And you talk about Debbie a lot. And forgive me for asking, but what would Debbie think of this entire situation that's transpired?
Well, nobody messed with my mother. Nobody. And so she would have put an end to it long ago. When I first reached out thinking it was an oversight, she would have been like, yeah, get over yourself. This is what we're doing. This isn't about you. This is what we're doing. This isn't about Disney. This isn't about Star Wars. This is about Carrie. And I think she would have put an end to the game pretty quick. Somebody brought up an interesting point. They said, this is kind of like Christmas. Yeah, it's great, the love and the giving and all that, but whose birthday is it?
That's a good point. Well, my last question for you, because I know you have to get out of here. And again, thank you for doing this on such a short notice for me. But I just want to give you, is there anything else you would like to say? Maybe stuff that's been misconstrued that's out there. Is there anything else you would like to address and let us know about this entire situation?
Well, I would just say that we were and always were a loving family, and Billie was in that for a long time. When they passed, she chose to take things this way, and I think that's because she lacks guidance from Carrie, who was a great balancer in her life, and lacks guidance from her grandmother, my mother. She's she's not seeing this clearly. So I don't blame her for this. I think it's actually because there's a missing link. And so I love her, and I will miss not being there with her.
And again, I'm sorry, I have one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. Have you gotten a chance to talk at all to, because I know she was very close with Mark and some of her other Star Wars cast. Have you gotten a chance to talk to them at all leading up to this big day?
I have not tried because I didn't want to drag them into this. I didn't want to drag anybody into this. A few people called me, but they're private conversations. I don't need to. They were Carrie's closest friends who also were cut out of this event, and I don't think I want to share that. But I would. It's up to them. But I think it's going to be obvious, who's there and not there. But Carrie's best friends are not going to be there, and Carrie's school friends are not going to be there. And I guess all of them, somehow offended everybody. I don't really understand that part of the equation.